Hello virtual pilots, today we are going to go through the startup procedures for the Swedish AJS-37 Viggen in DCS World. Built by Sierra Alpha Alpha Bravo, the AJS is the 90s upgrade of the 70s era double delta supersonic attack aircraft that was the backbone of the Swedish Air Force during the Cold War, serving as the main attack and anti-ship platform. The aircraft was designed around the pilot and its name translates to the Bolt or the Tough Duck. Following the instructions available in the sim, we are going to go step by step in every procedure, highlighting the important switches you need to remember in order to bring this attack fighter to life. We will perform a cold and dock startup, we will taxi and learn to control the thrust reverser, and after that we will take off and climb to 500 feet. So let's start! Here we are in the Swedish marked cockpit of the Viggen, blessed by Thor himself. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and ask the ground crew to connect the ground power unit. In the Viggen, we can press this button in order to bring the communications menu. Alright. It seems we have some traffic around the base today. Next, we need to insert the data cartridge into the slot on the rear left side of our seat. Just a left click should do the trick. We are now ready to set the main power switch to on, marked by the till position. Then we set the low pressure fuel valve to on, and the warning red light should turn off to indicate that the valve is open. Good. Let's cancel the master caution alarm by clicking on the center button. We will check if the master mode is in standby mode, marked by BER. Checked. We will also check if the auto throttle is set to off, meaning the full up position, and that the landing gear lever is lowered. I know at first glance the gear lever is in a weird place, but if you think about it, it is actually well designed. And if we move it by mistake, do not worry, it won't raise the gear until we are up in the air. Now we need to switch the throttle to the ground idle position by clicking on the switch. This will open the high pressure fuel valves for the engine. Next, we are going to perform the warning panel test. The button is positioned on our left side just over here. We hold it, and we check that the appropriate warning lights are lit. After that, we need to turn on the main generator prior to engine start. Then we will open the cover and check if the autopilot yaw correction dial is set to 0. Which it is. The main radio can be switched from the dial over here. We should keep it to normal plus guard, which is marked by norm and larm. Hey, do you hear that? One, two, three, 4 Viggens flying by. That's cool. DCS brings the excitement of participating in an air show to your living room. That is, if you have the correct sound system. Now let's check if the thrust reverser lever is not engaged. This handle should be pushed inwards and the reversal light should be off. Next, we are going to check that the main altitude director is properly aligned and that it doesn't show the warning red flag. Now for the next bit, I advise you to bind the button for lowering and raising the HUD reflector glass. You will need to switch it after takeoff and you want to have your hands on the controls at all times. For now, we need to leave it in the lower position. Next, let's set the HUD slave switch to off, and the CI HUD to barometric altitude in the LD position. Then we uncage the backup artificial horizon by clicking on the knob. Next, we need to set the altimeter pressure for 0 meters. The QFE pressure today is 1031 in hectopascals. Everything checks out. And we need to do the same with the backup altimeter. We need to turn the knob so the altitude is set to 0 and indicating 1031. Though it's a bit more harder to see it now. There we go. We can set the RWR warning receiver either to off, lights only, or lights and audio. We will keep it into lights and audio for now. Moving on, we turn the external lights, starting with the anti-collision to on, marked by till, then the nav lights to full, marked by hell, OK, followed by the formation lights and position lights. Last, we need to confirm the settings for the local magnetic declination, which here is 6 degrees. Alright. Now we will check that the radar altimeter is on, which it is. Next, we will load our flight plan and system presets from the data cartridge by setting the data selector knob to ref Lola. Oh dear. Switching the data input to in. And inserting 9099, which is the code of a fictional airfield number 99. Now we need to press LS waypoint to enter, causing the data cartridge to load. We will get the first digit 9 flashing until the transfer is complete, and then a full 0 indication. Good. Now we switch back to out, and we engage the oxygen system so we can breathe. Let's close the canopy by pushing the lever forward. Now we can start the engine. We know that all the necessary fuel valves are already opened, so we need to press the start switch, and we will monitor the according panels and gauges. The gas turbine should start increasing the RPMs. The ignition system appears marked by TANSYST on the panel. We are waiting for the engine to reach idle RPM. Once that is done, the START-SYST and TANSYST signs will disappear from the panel. And we can see that the nozzle position indicator is alive and that the engine exhaust temperature is nominal. Now that the engine is running, we must complete the after engine start checklist. We got an external fuel tank, so we will set the pitch trim to 3 degrees nose up by using our mapped buttons on the joystick and monitoring the pitch trim indicator. Arming the ejection seat located behind our head by moving the lever to the stowed position. And now we will confirm that no warning lights are lit, other than the green landing gear lights, and so. Checked and ready. Now we will perform the indicator system test by pressing and holding the button. We will hear the high alpha warning sounds. The engine fire warning called Brand are lighted on the warning panel. The altitude warning lights is lit in the center, and the fuel indicator displays 29%. Everything checks out. Next, we set the taxi lights. The switch is located on the left side just under this panel here. And taxi light is on, making sure we don't blind no one at the time. We're going to set the master mode to nav to start the HUD and setting the system in takeoff mode. HUD is alive. And we are ready for taxi. The brakes are currently parked, so we either press the pedals or we will click the switch to release the parking brake. Our follow me car is arriving. We are ready to perform a short taxi circuit around the base and test the reverser thruster on the runway in order to understand how it works, and more importantly, when to use it in order to brake or maneuver our jet. Now let's focus on the throttle that has 2 idle modes, ground idle and in-flight idle, currently being in the ground idle position. If we increase it slightly, we will hear a click sound followed by an increased engine RPM. Advancing the throttle further, we'll press it beyond the in-flight idle detent into the normal throttle range and we will start to move. Using our rudder pedals to turn, we will position behind the car. Tapping the wheel brakes to reduce our speed at this time. Later we will use the reverser thrust to brake more smoothly. There is a slight delay between the throttle and the engine thrust. It's something we need to get used to. We will follow the car on the runway and we will check both sides for incoming traffic. There is a helicopter on our left, but we will be safe. You can hear the clicking sound from the throttle when moving out of the idle detent. Short tapping the brakes, we will come to a stop here. Now we will practice reversing using the thrust reverser. We will pull the reverse handle. The reverser flaps will close. And when we add thrust, we will start moving backwards. We must be careful not to add too much thrust, using only gentle movement of the throttle, and it's imperative that we do not apply the brakes to stop reversing. Whatever you do, do not use the brakes, or you will cause a tail strike. In order to stop, just push the reverser thrust lever back in and slowly apply power until you stop. From now on, we will use the reverser thrust to slow down the jet. I advise you to bind a key for the reverse thrust lever to your throttle in order to have easy access to this feature. Now we will continue around the base and practice taxiing on narrow pathways and corners, maintaining our speed and braking using the reverse thrust. In war times, the Viggen was expected to operate from narrow runways, including rural highways surrounded by trees. Add to that bad weather, snow or mud and ice, and you got yourself a challenge, but the pilot will prevail, making good use of this amazing and tough machine. The Viggen is powered by a single Volvo RM8 turbofan. This was essentially a license-built variant of the Pratt & Whitney JT8D engine that powered commercial airliners of the 1960s, with an afterburner added for the Viggen. Thanks to the incorporated thrust reverser and a stall-like performance, gives the Viggen the possibility to operate from a minimum of 500 meters airstrips with minimal support. The aircraft was also designed from the beginning to be easy to repair and serviced, even for personnel without much training. Between 1952 and 1957, there were many studies towards what would become the Viggen, with over 100 different concepts being examined, involving both single and twin engine configurations, both traditional and double delta wings and canard wings. Even VTOL designs were considered, with separate lift engines, but were soon identified as being unacceptable. So that was our taxi practice, and we did just fine for now. Next up, let's get ourselves in the air. We will perform a standard takeoff in the AJS-37 Viggen, holding runway course, increasing power in all 3 afterburner stages and rotating at 270 km per hour. After that, we climb and level off at 500 meters. First, before our takeoff, we need to check that the master mode selection is in nav mode, and it is. Next, that the HUD reflector glass is in the lower position, we will raise it only after takeoff. And last thing, we check that the SPAC autopilot light is on. Check. Today we have good weather conditions with little wind, so we don't need to make a manual course setting. The aircraft will automatically determine the initial course based on the takeoff runway. Now we are ready for takeoff. Our eyes will be set on the afterburner indicator for the 3 afterburner zones and on the runway center line. Applying power. Stage 1 afterburner, Stage 2 and 3. Now we check our speed for 270 kilometers and rotate. Positive climb and gear up. Next, we will elevate our HUD reflector glass and reduce our power. Climbing to 500. And that's it. We got to perform a full startup, we taxied and learned how to use the reverse thrust, took off from the airfield, and we managed all the necessary systems. Next, we will continue our tutorial series for DCS World, featuring old and new models available now and in the future. Hope you find our video helpful, and be sure to give us a like as it helps the YouTube algorithm recommend our videos to more users along the way. And subscribe to be in touch with all the latest news from your favorite simulators and games. I am Andres Celesti, reminding you to fly safe, and I'll see you next time.